My name is Shirley, and I've pretty much done every drug known to mankind. My first drug was marijuana, and I was about 11. And I have to say, my family is a family of immigrants. So I never felt quite like I belonged. And everybody, this was back in the 70s, everybody smoking pot. So that helped me find a niche of people that I belonged to. So it was basically a sense of belonging. I had a boyfriend at the time who did hydrocodone and codeine, He used to send me into pharmacies because you could get turpentine cough syrup with codeine, and you just have to sign for it. I ended up with viral laryngitis, so doctor gave me a nice big bottle of cough syrup with codeine. And I thought, well, let's try it. I drank quite a bit of it, and lo and behold, I had the energy of Superwoman. Lived in Saudi Arabia, and they don't have the pharmacies set up or the doctors set up. Because as a woman going into their doctor's office, especially a foreign woman, it doesn't happen. So you join the expat community, and they find ways to smuggle heroin into a dry country. I apparently do not look like the typical drug addict. So I got to carry the heroin from the Golden Triangle into Saudi Arabia. I went from heroin to pills and back to heroin, because pills, one pill costs you $4 or $5 a piece, and I would need 6, 7, 8 of them at a time, 3 times a day. That's a lot of money. Where the heroin would cost you $25 a bag and would last you for 4 hours. So that was much cheaper. Unfortunately, the heroin here in the United States sucks. It's been stepped on so many times, so you're not getting the effect of pure heroin. So mix it again with pills. So I was getting 80 Oxycontins a day, or a month, and 240 Loratab 10s from one doctor for breakthrough pain. Of course, I'd still run out. So then I went to my pharmacist and would tell her, well, I have a doctor's appointment, and he's gonna check my bottle, and I need like 5 pills to put in my bottle so that I could show the doctor that I'm taking them the way I'm supposed to take them. And you can just take them out of my refill when I get my refill. And she would do it. It was a full-time job. The getting the drugs, the making appointments with the doctor, the making sure I was able to sit in a doctor's office. It sounds really odd, but thank God for crack cocaine, because I started using that, and within 3 months of using crack cocaine, I had no life. I'd lost a husband of 30 years. I was out of my house and into a single apartment. I couldn't drive a car without hitting something. And like I said, I had no life. There was no life. There was absolutely no life. Drugs became a full-time job. Just to get in drugs, I would hang out with my dealer for 4 hours outside somewhere in the freezing cold weather, just so I could get what's called a bump up, so a hit. There was no life. So eventually, my husband's family, who I was using with, he's kind of using my using buddy, decided that I was not doing my job and he was a sick person because of me, which is kind of awesome. But they came and picked him up. I was in jail, and I was out within 6 hours, and within that 6 hours, they came, they picked him up, and they took him to where they live. So I got home, and he was gone, the dog was gone, and no note, no phone call, no nothing until a couple days later, and they told me, well, I apparently was the cause of his drug usage, so they were going to take care of him and let my family take care of me. So obviously my family found out, something's going on. He decided that, I think when I realized or woke up or had that moment of clarity was when he started calling me from where he was at to send him drugs in the mail. And I was like, no. That's like a federal offense, and I've already been in jail a couple times. I was not willing to do that. And even through that, I was still using because I couldn't get up anymore without it. I needed something to get up. I needed something to stay up. I needed something to go to sleep. I needed something to stay asleep. That was my life. Drugs dictated every part of my being. So finally, my brother called from Arizona, and he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I need to get out of here. And my husband had already done his thing. He was gone for a month. I was alone. Nothing was getting paid. I didn't have a job, and I'm doing drugs. So the money I did have was just spent on drugs and going nowhere. So my brother agreed to pick me up and told me, well, I'll drive you in your car to Arizona from Indiana. And I said, okay, I get paid on such and such date. Well, such and such date came and went, and I spent the whole check, which at that time was $3,800, on drugs. So when my brother got there, and I knew in my heart, my back of my mind, even if I told my brother I didn't have the money for the gas to get across country, he probably would have still come. But for some reason, I had this deep set fear that if he told me, well, wait until you get paid again, I was going to be dead. I just knew that. So I didn't tell him. He flew in, got to the airport, and said, how much money do you have for gas? I said, $20. And he says, really? I said, that's all I got. He said, you couldn't have told me. I said, I came straight with him. I said, I was afraid that you would make me wait. And at that point in my life, something just told me I would be dead if I had to wait any longer. So I got to Arizona, stayed with my brother. He had another brother of ours come out, and he's a cooker, so drug addiction runs in my family. So an addict and a cooker together just is not a good mix, because he found out where to get drugs. I had some money, so it was on again. Even after all that, even after feeling I was gonna die, I still used drugs. I would go to different hardware parking lots and ask people I did not know, did not speak English, if they could get a rock or whatever, and deal was on. It was that easy. So I think it was, he went back to jail because he broke probation for something. And I stole a bunch of money from my sister and got drugs, and I'm fighting with drug dealers who have guns on their hips. It's like, it was craziness. There is no good reason on God's earth that I should still be alive at this point. Rehab worked for me. This is where I'm at. I'm happy. I'm getting on with my life. I'm not looking in the rearview mirror for a cop. I'm not worrying about testing. I'm not worried about kids being taken away. You know, I have a happy life. It's not perfect, but I'm very happy. I did it by going through rehab. That's what works for me, what worked for me. If you want what I have, I would suggest that that's where they start, is in rehab. Because it teaches you that this is not your fault. Drug addiction is not somebody's personal fault. It's something medically, chemically, that your body somehow, somewhere along the line, whatever drug you find clicks and says, this is the answer to all my problems. And I think that's where addiction starts, is in the brain. It's not so much peer pressure. It's not medically induced. It's something within us that says, this fixes me. And I think that's why I continued to use drugs. It fixed me until it didn't fix me anymore. So for me, I learned a lot in rehab. You know, that's the place to get a good foundation to start your life. And I say start your life, not fix your life. Because most of the people that I have met that are using and are broken, they don't need to repair the life they had. They need to find a new way of living. And rehab has all the elements as far as therapy, detox, a safe environment to get that foundation. You know, you got to change your whole life. You can't go back to the life you were, because the life you were got you where you are now. So I think it's important to have a good foundation. I think that's what rehab does. You know, it gives you back you. You know, and you decide what to do with that. That's what worked for me.